As I've been using MapleStory Worlds and Lua in general, one of the things I've found to be really important to learn if you want to get really efficient at this is that you have to have a really solid grasp on tables. As you keep messing with all this stuff and the more you learn about it, eventually you start to realize that Lua is more or less just kind of like tables all the way down. Even built-in things that you might have used like 100 times, you'll come to find are really just tables within tables within tables. If you're unfamiliar with that term, a table is really just a container that holds other values. That can be numbers, strings, other tables, functions, pretty much whatever you want. You use them to organize data and to build almost every higher level structure in Lua. If you've used other languages, you can think of tables as being like the catch-all for both arrays and dictionaries or maps. In Lua, an array would just be a table with integer keys that usually start at 1, whereas a dictionary would be a table with named keys. In Lua, you actually have the option to mix both of these styles into a single table, which is kind of interesting. Now here, I really just want to cover the basics, but I am going to talk about each different style and how we can iterate or loop through them. When it comes to creating tables in Lua, we really have a few different options. Creating an array style table is pretty simple. You type the name of your table, then an equal sign, an open brace, the values all separated by commas, and finally a closing brace. Lua will automatically assign an index to each value starting with 1. This style of table is really useful when you need to easily iterate over a changing number of items or when the order matters. Now, to anybody who's used arrays in other languages, accessing a value from this type of table will look pretty familiar. All you do is type the name of the table, then the index number you want inside of brackets. Creating a dictionary or map style table is pretty similar. You still start with the table name, the equal sign, and braces, but this time you type a key name, an equal sign, and the value you want to store to that key. Each entry is separated by a comma. To access data in this style of table, you can either type the table name with the key in brackets or use dot notation by typing the table name, dot, then the key. This will give you access to the value stored at that specific key name. Now, as far as the mixed style of table goes, they combine both numbered indices and name keys. You build it the same way, table name equals braces, but then you can freely mix comma-separated values and key equal value pairs in the same list. The numbered entries are treated just like any array, while the named entries behave like dictionary keys. For example, you might have a table that stores both the character's raw stats as numbered values, and also labeled data like their name or health. When accessing a mixed table, numbered entries still use brackets with an index, while named keys can use dot notation or bracket notation. Just remember, the order of named keys isn't guaranteed, and if you create gaps on the numeric side, Lua will stop iterating at the first missing value. Now that you've got a table made, one of the more common things you're going to want to do is to be able to loop through that data and iterate on it. Lua gives us two main tools for that, in I-pairs and pairs. Both loops follow the same structure. It begins with for to signal the start of the loop. The first variable is a reference to your current index or key, while the second variable is the value that's stored at that index or key. The word in this context is pretty self-explanatory, but it's just telling Lua which table we're going to be iterating through. Then we'll write the word do to begin the body of the loop, write all of our code, and wrap everything up with end to signal the end of that loop body. Now, I-pairs is for array-style tables. It starts at index 1 and counts upwards until it hits its first nil value. This is different from other languages that usually start at 0. Just keep in mind that Lua is going to begin you at 1. Now, if you're using a mixed table with named keys, I-pairs is going to ignore those named keys. It'll just skip them and move on to whatever the next numerical index is. With I-pairs, the order that it executes is guaranteed, which means that it's always going to start at 1 and go to 2 and so on and so forth. It'll always execute sequentially every single time it's executed. Bear in mind, if you leave a hole in your table, like for example setting something to nil explicitly, the loop is going to stop early. That's why iPairs works best when you know your table is a clean sequence. Now in contrast to iPairs, pairs is a more general purpose loop. The syntax is the same, but here the first variable isn't just a number, it can be a string or any other key. The second variable is again the value stored at that key. Unlike iPairs, pairs does not guarantee order. It might shuffle around every time you run it, so pairs is best when you just need to see everything in a dictionary or a mixed table, and you really aren't worried about the order in which it's iterating over all the values. So for a quick recap, use iPairs for predictable in-order iteration through arrays. Use pairs when you want to loop through everything in a dictionary or mixed table and the order doesn't matter. If programming or game dev is still pretty new to you, tables can feel like a lot to wrap your head around. They look simple on the surface, but they're actually incredibly powerful. And once you get the hang of them, they'll probably be one of the tools you use the most. The basic concepts we covered here should give you a solid reference point to start from, but in the next video, we'll dive into some more advanced uses, like nesting tables and handy table-specific functions that make working with them even easier. In the meantime, if you'd like to see this and other programming or Lua concepts used in a practical example, feel free to check out my game, Maple Survivor, on the MapleStory Worlds platform. You can check out it and a ton of other games by other awesome and amazing creators there. But for now, thank you everybody for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Until then, take it easy.